yeah, landscapes, right? Landscapes. A lot of people think I was labelled for a while as a landscape photographer, but I don't really like landscapes as such, if you know what I mean. I like them to be unusual. Just discussing it with this gentleman over here about straightforward landscapes don't interest me that much. So I'm always on the lookout, and there's a storyline with these because these borders that they're doing up was in Scotland, this one, and I actually got up early in the morning. I've never done that before. It was before 8 o'clock and I was out. No, but I got out and I'd seen this hedgerow the day before, and it was beautiful, and I thought, oh, I've got to have some of that. So I got up early and got down to this hedgerow. But obviously they're planting them like this so that bees and wasps and flies and all that lot. So it makes it a good habitat for the wildlife and the insects and everything, because we're getting a little bit dodgy on a lot of the insects. I don't think people realise how important this kind of situation is. I mean, the bees need to make honey and feed and live and all that, but they reckon if we didn't have bees, we'd be in a right state. So yeah, pollinating, yeah, everything. So there'd be no cucumbers or anything, would there? So I like this type of a picture. What I tried to do was find, when you look at something like this, you think, where shall I put the central or the main character, as it were, in the picture? Well, obviously that flower was the interesting one for me, and I put it on the bottom third. I couldn't, for some unknown reason, I could have done to have moved it just a fraction round, just a fraction, so that this flower was maybe half the width of itself that side again, but there was something here or something, and I couldn't quite get it, so I had to take it as it was. But yeah, I like to do things like this that have a little story, a backstory behind them as well, or they're unusual. Next one. Like this, I was at Nunnington Hall, that was right, and they decorated the trees with it was some charity or other, and I found it quite interesting that all these things were on there, but there was one lone apple just still there. And I don't know, I was just thinking about the Garden of Eden somewhere along the line there. I don't know where my thoughts were going with that, but yeah. I just thought it was interesting because of the colours and the apple. And the apple is on the third and the third. That way to give it, I was trying to find a composition amongst all of that. So yeah, next one. That one won me a competition. I was Black and White Photographer of the Year in one of the photography magazines with that one. That was some time ago. That was 2007, I think it was. It did very well, that one. I was pleased with that. It's an enormous thing when you get stood underneath it, isn't it? And couldn't get it all in, see? So, next one. And walking through the marram grasses in Northumberland. We'd just been on a walk for the day, and we were walking back to the car, and we were just walking along the coastal path, and the wind was blowing the marram grasses across like that, and the light, it was late afternoon in winter, well, about 3 o'clock or something, and the light on it was just beautiful, and I just thought, I've got to get this picture. So of course I wanted the leading line to come from this corner, so the marram grasses started the leading line going, and then the post took over and took it up to the other side for the compositional value. But pretty simple shot, but it still did quite well. Actually, it was shortlisted in Landscape Photographer of the Year, that one. Next one. That one won me a competition. I was Black and White Photographer of the Year in one of the photography magazines with that one. That was some time ago. That was 2007, I think it was. It did very well. Actually, it was shortlisted in Landscape Photographer of the Year, that one. was only shortlisted though. It didn't make it through to the actual book or anything. But I was quite pleased with that one. Next one. Yeah, you recognise that. That one was in the Landscape Photographer of the Year exhibition on the South Bank in London with Charlie Waite's competition. That one, I was just walking back from the shop one night and this fog had rolled in across the harbour. And I just looked at it and I thought straight away of Sutcliffe taking a picture of the herring fleet. And it reminded me, you know, that all the masts would have been just like that. I mean, but it's a modern fleet nowadays, but and there's still the connection with fishing along the side here. So, yeah, it was again. It was. If I remember rightly, I took this on my little tiny compact camera, my Fuji X10. I didn't have a tripod. It was getting low light. I rested it on one of the posts along the side. I just put the camera on the post, set the timer going, and let the camera take the picture. And that was it. And when it was printed up for the exhibition in London, it was, I think it was 40 by 30 inches. So this is my, I like pictures to be printed if I can. That's why I'm not against phones, but phones restrict you. If I took the best picture I've ever taken on a phone and I couldn't blow it up more than about, well, 16, 12 even, I'd be most disappointed. So, yeah, that was quite good for me. That it was in Landscape Photographer of the Year. It was in the Hayward Gallery on the South Bank. Nice. Next one. That one was in the Mall Gallery in London. That was British Life Photography Awards. This one, again, I didn't have a tripod. I just had my little Fuji. But this is Blackpool, obviously. And I don't know if you know Blackpool, but there's quite a lot of, the sea wall has steps on it going down. So I found a step that was just at the right height sort of thing, resting my camera on it, and again set it on the timer, because this was about a 2-second, 3-second exposure, whatever. This guy, I took 2 or 3 of these, because this guy that was taking pictures of the reflection in the water was, he was pixel people. Well, he was checking his pictures, so he'd take the picture and then have a look, and he was moving. So 2 or 3 of the pictures he's really moving on it, but this one I managed to get him fairly still because he was having a right good look at his pictures, obviously, and he was still. So I managed to get that one quite lucky. But it was a fantastic sunset. It really was. It's one I do a couple of jobs still, and in Blackpool, one of them. It's a conference that I do, and I'd just been out for a walk on the evening, and I saw this, and I thought, wow, that's fantastic. Blackpool isn't fantastic. Some parts of it, I tell you. I'm not good for Blackpool, am I? But yeah, that was it. That was in the British Life Photography Awards in the exhibition in London. So it made it there. Didn't win it. I never win. I'm not bitter. Next one. This one some of you may have seen before, I don't know. This one again was in the Landscape Photographer of the Year. It was up on the moors on the way through to Middlesbrough. I saw the smoke rising from quite some distance on the way up towards Middlesbrough, and I thought, what's that? So I drove closer and realised it was the burning off the heather. And I started to take pictures from way back straight away in case I missed, in case it all blew away, you know, or something like that, because it's just my luck. When I get there, all the smoke will have blown away and it'd be just flames or something. So I continued to take pictures all the way up to there, and I've got a sequence of pictures that work quite nicely as a set. I think there's 5 pictures that work really nicely in this set. But you'll notice I took this one, and what I did was I placed the beta in the bottom left-hand corner to give it some scale. Right, so that's another thing that's handy to do when you're taking pictures. Sometimes if you took this picture without, the scale wouldn't be there, you know. So yeah, that was Landscape Photographer of the Year as well. That was in London as well, in another year. That was a different year. Next one. Oh, this one's in Scotland, in Fife. And it was a real misty morning. I got up early that morning too. And I went down to the harbour. It was in a place called Ely, or Ely, or something. It was beautiful down there, and I went down there and took a couple of pictures in there. I don't normally do that, but the fog was so nice, I thought I'll go down and get that. Next one. It's the brig at Filey. I don't take many of these type of pictures because I find them a bit bland at times, you know, unless it's quite a good wave or an unusual wave or something. I like the fact that it looks sort of menacing, like it's almost right on top of me, if you know. Well, it was. It wasn't far away, let's put it like that. But it is quite. I don't know if any of you have ever stood on a like somewhere like the brig or some rocks somewhere near the sea when it's coming in, and it really hits the rocks and it cracks, and you go, oh God, you know, it makes you really jump. But that was a particularly busy day in the sea there. So, but I like all this sort of froth and everything up there. Next one. Yeah, this one comes down to technique more than anything else. I mean, 1 or 2 people have taken this picture since then, but they haven't used the long exposures. And I quite like the long exposure on this. I took a few pictures to get it how I wanted it, but the clouds were moving quite quickly towards me. And I really like the Art Deco sort of handrails going down. It's that Art Deco sort of style, and then you've got this brutalist concrete down the sides of it leading into the sea, and you've got that highlight in the middle over there. I've got this one on my wall at home. I'm this big. I'm really quite pleased with that picture. But it's just, you know, when you go along the seafront anywhere, or the weather, you know, you're looking at there to get a picture or something, and you want it for a competition. Again, there's elements that to look for. I mean, this was good because it sort of it closed out all the rest of the surroundings that were around it, which was nice, and kept it simple by getting into that position. That was on a tripod, that one. I did that one on the tripod. It would have been possible from the top step to do it on the timer as well, obviously. You can always put your camera on the floor. If you like on the top step, let's say you were on the top step and you wanted to take that picture with a wide angle, you know, a fairly wide angle, you could put a little pebble under the back of the camera just to tilt it that little tiny bit to get the picture. You can always sort of find things lying about just to wedge underneath if you need to. It's thinking out of the box. It's just trying to get that picture right. Next one. I always think of that as being my Rodin picture. I always think of those rocks. They look like Rodin's sculptures, but sculpted by the sea instead. And the long exposures. I had my waders on that day. Thank God. because it was coming up to it. Doesn't matter where I go with my waders on, if I go in the sea, somehow I managed to go just that bit too far and end up with very soggy feet. I did the same at Flamborough Head. I was there and it all seemed very calm, and then a big wave came in and it went right over the top. Not a lot. Next one. This was at Spurn Point. Again, the problem with that is if you're on a tripod, as the sea's coming in and out there, I don't know whether it's something to do with the sand at Spurn Point, but unless you get your tripod really sunk into the sand, when it's coming in, it sinks a bit more all the time, so you get like ghosting going down as well, which isn't exactly what you want, so your pictures aren't sharp. So trying to get a sharp picture there is really difficult. But these are more technical pictures. I would expect people that have been to get this type of picture during the day, you're needing filters and things like that to be able to get the shutter speeds down and things like that. So they are more for the more technical minded people. But I just thought I'd put them in as well tonight as well. Next one. This one's a fairly simple one with you could do this with a compact camera quite easily. I was laid in the sand basically with my elbows down and took the picture. I just made sure that I got this particular post right in the foreground and then let that lead in. So if you look at the composition, it leads from the left to the right and then it leads back to the left. Which is the sort of composition that you need to find in a scene like that. It isn't automatically, you don't look at it and go, oh yeah, there it is. You have to look for it. This is from a series of pictures called The Last Posts. And again, this one was highly commended in an American competition, this one. Which was quite nice. Only highly commended though. But still, it's a nice thing to have. But yeah, I quite enjoy doing these sometimes, especially down at Spurn Point. You can lose yourself down, well, you can get lost, get cut off, that's for sure. But you can lose yourself down there and spend hours down there, sort of I just lay in the soft sand, it's lovely, and even when it's cold, if the sun's out, you can get into a sheltered spot and it gets quite warm laid in the beach. So yeah, next one. Oh yeah, this one. Now this is an example of the knees business, right? Okay. As I'm walking along, I'm looking at the posts because I'm looking for unusual posts as well. And this one, I thought it looked like a pixie screaming out of the beach. Is that what it looks like to you? Or is it just me? But it's got funny ears, hasn't it? But yeah, it's screaming out of the beach, sort of thing. And I thought, I've got to get a picture of this. And I tried photographing it stood up so I didn't have to bend my legs. Then I thought, right, so I put the camera again on the floor on this one and used the timer and it took it for me. I just made sure it was focused on the actual post and I gave it now somebody asked me before about my settings and things like that, right? So what I do in a situation like that is I most probably set it on, and I do this when I'm doing like the street photography, I set an aperture priority of about f4 or something like that. And depending on how much light there is, I alter the ISO, I might go for a 200 or a 400 or whatever. Sometimes you even have to go up to 1600, 3200, whatever, depending, it doesn't matter. If you get grain, you get grain. If you get the picture, it doesn't matter. as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, that's what I do. I use aperture priority quite a lot, especially on the little Fuji. And I use autofocus on that as well. On the Nikon, I tend to use manual settings a lot more because it's a bigger camera and it takes a bit more. I like to take a bit more time with that. Next one. That's at Castle Howard. I was there for the whole day. It was a dog thing I was there for, and I couldn't find. I just got no inspiration whatsoever, and I walked into the woods at the bottom of Castle Howard there, and these trees were just fantastic. So I thought, oh, I'll have to take some photographs of them. And then when I converted it to black and white, I brought the greens up so that the foliage went lighter, so it was white.
Like an infrared type.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So you bring up the greens in Photoshop. This is. I mean, I don't know what software you all use, but there must be the equivalent where you change the black and white, and you can alter the colours in black and white, so to speak. Yeah, and again, composition, it just worked nice. There was. It took a while to find the composition, but I was quite pleased with that one. Next one. I was on the top of, well, it was above Ambleside in the Lake District, and went up one morning walking, and I noticed all the grasses and everything had the dews on, and it just looked like little pearl drops and everything. And you can't photograph them against their own background, so to speak. You have to get down and look up to be able to get some detail out of them. I got quite a good few pictures of these, and I like these this type. That's my type of a landscape, as opposed to, you know, the sweeping hills and what have you. Next one. And this one was in London. Now, this one's interesting because I wanted to photograph this ride. It's outside the Natural History Museum. It's usually there every year, with the ice skating rink at the other side of it normally. This particular year I was there, and it was dark, obviously, and I thought, I'm not going to be able to get this. So I had a look around, and there was some car parking pylons that were at the side. So I thought, oh, I'll get one of them. So I got I got all my exposure right and everything, and I got a car parking cone, and I balanced my camera on top of that and switched the timer on and took it that way. And I got quite a long exposure. It was quite a bit, and I quite like the way these people are walking down as well. They were walking. I waited till somebody walked down, and I got that, so it was all, you know, blurred and everything. Yeah, I remember doing that. Next one. Right. We're nearing the end now. Don't worry, you can breathe. Again, out of the box. I was sat at home one day. What can I do on board? Right, and I think, yeah, it was. There was a competition in one of the photographic magazines, and it was for still life or something like that. And I thought, how can I do something different, you know? And so what I did was, I had this box of coloured straws there, and I thought, how can I do this? And I messed around for a while, and in the end, I decided I was going to. I got some elastic bands, and I put them around the bottom and splayed them out so they came into this display. And then what I did was, I had the camera above it and set it on timer at something like 30 seconds or something like that, at f22, switched all the lights off in the room, and shone it with a torch round. So it eventually lit it. So I was painting with light. But you could do that with pretty simple camera gear. That, you know, it's and I lit that, and I think that won £300 that one as well in one of the competitions. So it was a fruitful afternoon, shall we say, messing about. But I like to do that sometimes, and Don's mentioned one as well, which I'm coming to in a second, which is very similar, which had a lot of people scratching their head at one point. Next one. That one won me a rucksack, a photographic bag, you know. That one, everybody started to say to me, how the hell did you get your tripod in there? I said, I didn't. And they said, well, how did you take that then? I says, well, I just balanced my camera on the floor, on its back, and set the timer going, and shut the door, left it. And it took itself. So that's how that one was taken, right? That was in Digital Camera magazine, I think it was, that one. And the next one, that one, I got told off for this. I went to the Baltic in Newcastle. And I was in there, and I went to see the exhibits that were on in the Baltic. And I fell asleep almost. It's so far out there. It's some of the stuff in there that really is out of the box. That stuff in the Baltic. So as I was leaving, I thought, this staircase is fantastic, you know. So I decided I was going to do the same again as I did with the phone box. So I set my camera on the base that was right at the bottom of it, and set the timer going, stood back and let it take the picture. And one of the security guards came out, he says, do you realise you've just laid your camera on one of the exhibits? I said, what? He says, that is an exhibit. I said, well, there's nothing. I said, it's a mirror. I said, it's just like a mirror. And he went, that's part of the exhibit. I went, oh, I'm sorry. He said, it's all right, don't do it again. Left. So I actually broke the rules with that one. but I got a good picture. And that one was in one of the magazines as well. That did all right. Next one. This is the one Don was talking about, the cheese grater. Right? I put this up somewhere, and that one won £800. That one, I got an £800 prize for that one. It was good, but this one, right? I said to people or something, see if you can do it, right? How I did it, and there was people with cameras and bits of string and hanging it from the ceiling, and it was swaying like this and everything. I can't get it to hold still while I photograph it and blah, blah, blah. But basically what I did was, I got my Nikon camera, my Nikon. I put it on its back on the table in my kitchen. I got the cheese grater and I taped it to my lens, right? So it's on its back, the camera, cheese grater on top like that, switched all the lights off in the room, I set the timer going at 30 seconds at f22, and I got a torch and I lit that with a torch through it. So all the light came through the holes of the cheese grater and lit the inside of it. And because of the ingenuity and the out-of-the-box flavour of it, it won the competition. So I was quite pleased with that one. Yeah, it was good. But Don, like I said, Don's been doing it, haven't you, Don? Yeah. So yeah, that's where that originated. And to be honest, I hadn't seen it anywhere else before, but since I've seen hundreds of them. To be honest, so it must have triggered off a trend, a cheese grater trend. I think that you would call that. And I think the next one is it.